Sorry, let me bring in, there's a new research article involving about 50 researchers. Nearly that number.
So if you go to the Moderna website, you can see the URL right there. But they have about 8 major patents up there that are the patents for all mRNA vaccines, period. And it's not just Moderna, it's, Pfizer, BioNTech. We now know this lipid nanoparticle technology is also in Johnson & Johnson. So it's for all quote unquote COVID-19 mRNA vaccines and for all mRNA vaccines for all other quote unquote viruses in the future. So you can go straight to Moderna's website. And so this is what I would call the master patent for the lipid nanoparticle technology. And the lipid nanoparticle technology is actually part of the AI bioweapon and is actually the spike protein, right? That's the thing that makes the spiky things. So what this says clearly it's for the production of the protein. So this actually has the sequences in it for the body using artificial intelligence to produce. As Dr. Ryan Cole had said, it can actually produce a spike protein without a nucleocapsid, but it's not a synthetic protein; it's biosynthetic. So they need the lipid nanoparticles, and this clearly states that they're 80 to 160 nanometers in size. So to put that in perspective, a micrometer is 1,000 nanometers, and most viruses are, as you know, a couple or several micrometers. So this is, 1/10 the size of, less than 1/10 the size of a virus. And quantum dot can be as small as 1 nanometer. As you read through this patent for the lipid nanoparticles, for all mRNA and COVID-19 vaccines on Moderna's website, it clearly states in section 219 that it contains nanoparticles that are self-assembly and fully programmable. And what are those nanoparticles? Well, in section 219 and 220, it goes on to say that they are gels and hydrogels. It's right there for everyone to see. So it is not a conspiracy theory to think that people were injected with smart self-assembling hydrogel. It's in the master patent on Moderna's website.
Wait. Where does this patent say self-assembling though, or where?
If you go back in section 219, it says the polymer-based self-assembly nanoparticles may be fully programmable in section 219.
And section 219, and again, you haven't added 219 to this or anything. These are just screenshots from the patent, correct?
These are screenshots, and that's why I put the section numbers there. So this is the patent that's really interesting, that's been taken down by the U.S. Patent Office, and we'll get to that in a second. So in the Moderna lipid nanoparticle technology patent, there's probably about 80 or 90 other patents listed. So you see those patents when they're talking about technologies, then you have to go to those patent numbers and look them up to find out exactly what they are. So this one was filed by Life Technologies for water dispersible nanoparticles. And what this is for is to make sure that the nanoparticles, which are quantum dot, can be distributed throughout the body in your bloodstream, right? That's the intention. Well, how do I know that the nanoparticles that Life Technologies, which is now owned by Thermo Fisher Scientific, they acquired them in 2015. How do I know that this is nanoparticles? Again, now this rolls up into that patent I'm showing you that's on the Moderna website. Well, because if you go to section 003, it states that semiconductor nanocrystals, also known as quantum dot, is what this technology is about. So it's using quantum dot to distribute it throughout the body, and there's tagging involved too. And as you go through what quantum dot can do, this is a 2011 book called Quantum Confinement Effect, and it talks about how basically you can use the quantum dots in biology to create tags, so to mark people or mark animals. And specifically, there's decades of successful research where they use quantum dot to not just label an animal or a human, but then to actually tag, mark, and trace and communicate with, if you will, and secret, the heart, liver, spleen, lung, kidney, and brain, which is those are the major organs that the quote unquote spike protein attack.
Mm-hmm. Right. True.
And then
exactly.
If you go to Thermo Fisher's website, they have a technology called QDOT. And QDOT is using quantum dot to label not just organs, but tissues and down to the cellular level. And so they have QDOT. They used to own that patent, which they apparently let expired, but they do have QDOT, which can, again, mark, tag, trace using quantum dots, tissues and cells. And then they announced in February this year, they have a 15-year deal with Moderna for all mRNA vaccines And they also disclosed that they were part of the manufacturing for Moderna's COVID-19 vaccines. So what are these hydrogels? They're part organic and part inorganic. That's what at the top. This is another patent that falls underneath the master patent for the Moderna lipid nanoparticles that's in all the vaccines. So IOH, inorganic organic hydrogels, right? What is an inorganic organic hydrogel? Again, part technology, AI, and metallic structures, and part biology, genetic sequences from other life forms, insects, reptiles, rodents, humans, whatnot. So what do these things look like? Well, they look like quantum dots. They have this bright blue, and rainbow colors that they give off. And so as you go through this peer-reviewed article on inorganic organic hybrid materials, and again, you can see the poor little mice are getting marked, they're marking their certain organs in their bodies. You can see upper right-hand corner too, there's some markings or attachments to the bones. There's another specific patent in the Moderna patent that actually does specifically target bone and getting into the bone marrow. And clearly it says that, okay, the backbone, the energy source, the technology behind inorganic and organic hybrids is Q dots. It's quantum dot. That's what it is. But what's interesting is that you can't just inject people with quantum dot, right? You just can't take what's out of your TV and stick it in someone's body and it's going to know where to go. It needs a technology, which is a single wall carbon nanotube. And what is that? Well, it's a graphene oxide based structure that's 1 atom thick. It encapsulates the quantum dot, and then it's put in the cubosome in the LNP, the lipid nanoparticle, and delivered in the body. Now, what's really terrifying and a deep betrayal is that this patent is under the Moderna patent, as I mentioned, but it's owned by the Chinese government, the Chinese military. It's the intellectual property of China. There's a military publication called Breaking Defense, and in January 2020, there's a Army program manager who's an engineer and physicist named Joe Key. He worked on nanotechnologies, 5G, and quantum dot. And his job was to work with the military to make sure, that 5G would activate, quantum dot. But then what's strange, what was disturbing is, and again, you can see it's all carbon nanotubes was like the subhead. He was working on specifically the carbon nanotubes.
Yeah.
He had this business, or his Army partner, this guy Myers. So Key from China was working on the nanotubes, and then Myers was working on the quantum dots to get them down to 6 nanometers, and then they worked together so that the single wall carbon nanotubes can encapsulate the quantum dot, and then that would go into the technology to be delivered into the human body. This is a peer-reviewed article. You can see the title of it. I believe it was in PNAS. But what you're looking at is the cargo systems of magnetic nanoparticles inside cells. So what it's doing, it can produce a spike protein. It can do the short codon sequences, right, to produce the spike protein. So those are the spike. It's producing synthetic viruses in your body. So there is this patent called the Intelligent Sensor Platforms Patent. And it was filed in February of 2016. And
cognitive action?
Pardon?
It says it's capable of cognitive action?
Yeah, and that's what the genetically engineered hydrogel is, also intelligent.
Oh my goodness. What? Cognitive action?
Yeah.
That means these things are thinking.
Yep. Yeah, and I have to write this up. So, and they connect with one another in the body and with other human bodies, and then up to the cloud, which they call the brain cloud. But so this is an intelligent sensor platform. So this is literally, it's more than surveillance under the skin. It's, as you can see here, this talks about the intelligent platform, and it's independent of you, but then it can also be controlled through signals. This is the patent that's called Intelligent Sensor Platform. So it just states here that the technology in some embodiments, is programmed with minimal functionalization. So that means as soon as we don't need to signal it. We can pre-program it to go to the central nervous system, pass the blood-brain barrier, okay? And then those cages, they can also deliver the payload. Can be a virus, an mRNA virus, the payload, that can then produce, but what's being produced is not a biological spike protein. So that's right there in this patent.
Sure
But
enough.
then what I found was interesting was saying here that there's other types of art, so within this technology, that show immunogenicity after crossing the blood-brain barrier. So sometimes it's failed, but when it works, there's immunogenicity. This is a horrible idea, Mike. The last thing you want is for your brain to start going into an inflammatory response. That's what this means. That robust immune response is this giant inflammatory response.
Wow.
So this causes brain inflammation. This is why the symptoms, 1 out of 13 people with COVID, they have neurological brain symptoms. This is why the Rothschilds are funding SARS-CoV-2 neuroinvasiveness, because it's the AI bioweapon going to your brain. This is why they want to take samples of your brain and your spinal fluid to find their AI nanoweapon and how far it's developed in your brain and your central nervous system. Okay, this is straight from the NIH website studies. And then this is the patent that is owned by, we talked about this last time, Elric, and it's filed in United Arab Emirates, Israel, and the United States. And it's a technology for all COVID-19 vaccines. It shows the under the skin sensor neural network, right? How you're all connected to one another. And you can exchange data with each other because somehow or another, these 20 people are surrounding someone they know wasn't vaccinated. And it's all the vaccines on the World Health Organization. And everyone's like, okay, we know that, Karen, got it. But as you keep reading through the patent, in section 3053, it's also all products listed on the NIH website for COVID-19. And it says, so that includes hydroxychloroquine, azithromycin, and zinc. So that can be considered a vaccination. They can put this smart technology in Paxlovid. They can put this technology in any, not just treatments, they can put it in diagnostics. They can put it in the PCR test. They can put it in masks. If the NIH says you should wear a mask, then they can put it for COVID-19, they can put it in a mask. They want to put it in everything.
Dental supplies?
Dental supplies, your toothpaste, your mouthwash.
That's crazy.
Non-prescriptions, like you said, medication.
Over-the-counter remedies. Whoa.
Yeah, masks, markers, powders, pediatric care products, your baby formula, okay? They want to put it in veterinary products. They're going to exterminate your dogs and your cats, okay? Animal slaughter systems. So that is, that's our food supply. Okay?
There's already mRNA injections happening in some cattle.
Yeah, how do you think all those cattle fell over and died? They were infected with this AI nanoweapon, sent out the EMF frequency, and 1,000 of those black Angus fell over, or hundreds, whatever. Wow. That was an EMF attack. So that's what they planned for humans. That was simply showing us what they can do with this EMF technology when it's activated. It wasn't a heat stroke. It was an EMF attack, and those black Angus were infected with this AI nanoweapon.
Enough biology, and you have enough computing power and data, you can hack my body and my brain and my life, and you can understand me better than I understand myself. You can know my personality type, my political views, my sexual preferences, my mental weaknesses, my deepest fears and hopes. You know more about me than I know about myself. And you can do that not just to me, but to everyone. A system that understands us better than we understand ourselves can predict our feelings and decisions, can manipulate our feelings and decisions, and can ultimately make decisions for us. Now, in the past, many tyrants and governments wanted to do it, but nobody understood biology well enough, and nobody had enough computing power and data to hack millions of people. Neither the Gestapo nor the KGB could do it. But soon, at least some corporations and governments will be able to systematically hack all the people. We humans should get used to the idea that we are no longer mysterious souls. We are now hackable animals.